They weren't alone. 3 terrifying encounters in abandoned places. What do a teenage runaway, 2 bored small-town friends, and a solo backpacker all have in common? They each walked into a place they shouldn't have, and each one of them discovered something inches from disaster, that they weren't alone. Stay with me, because these 3 stories are gonna crawl under your skin and stay there. If you've ever had that gut feeling that something was wrong, that primal hair-raising instinct screaming at you to run, then you already know what these people felt. Subscribe now, hit that like button, and let's get into 3 of the most chilling, real encounters I've ever come across. You will not want to miss a single word. Story 1. The man in the uniform. Being 18 means you're just old enough to make dangerous decisions and just young enough to not fully understand the consequences. That's exactly where our first narrator found himself on the worst night of his teenage life. He and his parents have been fighting. Nothing new, the usual words of war that teenagers and parents wage against each other over things that seem enormous in the moment and laughable in hindsight. But this fight hit differently. His parents, fed up and frustrated, essentially told him to get out for the day. And being the stubborn, dramatic kid he was, he decided he wouldn't just leave for the day, he'd leave for good. Or at least that's what he told himself as he stormed off down the street, kicking rocks and nursing his wounded pride. Hours passed, the sun sank, the adrenaline of his defiance faded, replaced by something far more uncomfortable: reality. He needed somewhere to sleep. His friend's house were out of question. Their parents would call his parents and turn this into an even bigger production. So his mind went somewhere else entirely. There was an abandoned house at the end of a dead-end road in his neighborhood. He explored it as a kid with his friends. Broad daylight, all laughs, just a crumbling old building with no real teeth to it. He figured he'd slip into it, spend the night, maybe not even sleep, just wait out his pride until morning. Simple enough. He got there around 10 at night. Now here's where you need to picture this clearly, because the details matter. The road had been cut off for years. A gate marked the entrance to an overgrown driveway that led through dense trees towards the house. The forest had been slowly consuming the building for years, vines crawling up every wall, brushes swallowed the foundation, branches reaching over the roof like the earth itself was trying to pull the place underground. He almost couldn't see the house until he was standing right next to it. The broken door he remembered from childhood was still hanging open, same as he left it years ago. He slipped inside. Immediately he knew he wouldn't be able to sleep here. At night the place was suffocating. Every window except the entrance was boarded solid. The darkness inside wasn't just dark, it was thick, pressurized, the kind that makes your eyes ache from trying to process nothing, but curiosity kept him moving. He started towards the staircase, one hand on the railing, when he heard it, a creak. Then another, footsteps, deliberately unhurried on the floor below him. He froze. Mid-step on the staircase, his heart stopped. Before it slammed back into overdrive, he heard a door open somewhere near the entrance. Whoever was there was now standing between him and his only way out. 10 minutes. He stood frozen for what felt like 10 full minutes, listening to absolute silence below him. No movement, no breathing he could hear, nothing. That stillness was somehow worse than if the person had been crashing around. It meant that they were waiting, patiently, deliberately. He made his decision. He had to move eventually. He crept silently to the bottom of the stairs, peered around the corner, nothing. Then edged towards the next corner, looking down towards the open door and the night beyond it. A man stood directly in the doorway, and he was already staring at him. "Stop right there." The voice was deep and slightly slurred. The man wore what looked like a police uniform, but something about it was wrong. Even in the near total darkness, He could see that the uniform was distressed, loose, ill-fitting, too big for the frame wearing it, like it belonged to someone else. The man was tall and thin, and the shadows covered his face completely, which somehow made everything worse. "You shouldn't be here, kid. Why are you here?" He stammered an apology, said he'd leave right now, turned to go. "Did you come here alone?" The way it was said, nothing concerned. Something else entirely. A chill moved through him, from his scalp to his feet. He said yes, just him. He was leaving. "What were you looking for out here?" He shook his head, and in the darkness he could see the man's face shift. He thinks it was a smile. Then the man turned and walked back towards the door he emerged from, a doorway that led into absolute pitch darkness. He leaned against the frame, pushed the door open wider. "Come here." Two words, half friendly, half something that had no name. And that was the moment. That was the second it all crystallized. This was not a cop. Real cops don't beckon teenagers into dark rooms. Real cops don't stand in abandoned houses alone at night wearing a uniform that doesn't fit them. And crucially, now that the man had moved towards the room, the exit was no longer fully blocked. He ran. He sprinted straight from the door. The man's arm shot out, faster than expected, and the fingers caught his shirt collar, yanking him backwards, choking him from one horrifying instant, and then the grip slipped, and he was free. He ran without stopping, through the trees, down the street, across town, until he burst through his own front door, where he found a police cruiser parked in the driveway. His parents had reported him missing. He said nothing about the house. He was still shaking, too hard to speak. But here's the thing that confirmed everything for him looking back. Those real officers never once mentioned the abandoned property, never asked if he'd been there. If a legit cop had encountered a teenager trespassing and then watched that teenager flee, every officer in the area would have been radioed a description immediately. The silence on their end said everything. Whatever was waiting for him in that dark room, he almost found out. Story 2. The Circle in the Dark. Sam and his best friend Marcus grew up in a small kind of town where most exciting things within miles was an old farmhouse rotting in the middle of a field. Everyone in town knew about it. No one really went there. The county had bought the land decades ago after the original owner died, fenced it off, posted no trespassing signs, and then just left it to decay. On a dead summer afternoon, with nothing else going on, Sam and Marcus made the kind of decision that teenagers make when boredom outweighs caution. They grabbed flashlights, drove to the edge of town, parked off the road, and hiked a mile out to the fence line, smart enough to avoid the open field where cops sometimes paroled. They followed the fence around to the back where the property met the woods, minimizing how long they'd be exposed in the open. Up close, the farmhouse was something else. The wood had weathered down to a deep black, no colour, no paint, just this ancient darkness grained, covered in vines that crawled upwards from the foundation. Surprisingly, the structure looked stable. The roof held. The walls weren't collapsing. It had been abandoned for over a century, and the forest had grown around it like a small embrace. They found an open window on the side and climbed through. Sam first, then Marcus. They stood still for a moment, flashlight beams cutting through the air, illuminating clouds of disturbed smoke that swirled around them like slow smoke. The floors bowed and creaked under every step. Both of them felt it immediately, that deep, wordless unease that certain places generate for reasons you can't entirely explain. Neither said anything for the first few moments. Then Marcus whispered his name. "Sam, come look at this." "What is that?" Sam looked where Marcus was pointing, up at the ceiling. Through that gap between the floorboards above them, visible only if you stood in exactly the right spot, was a faint orange glow, barely there, a dim, flickering warmth seeping through cracks in the wood overhead. There was no electricity in this building. There hadn't been for a century. There was no rational reason for any light to exist upstairs. They went up anyway. The second floor was a hallway lined with closed doors, and under one of them, visibly clearly now, not faint at all, was a bright orange flicker. Candlelight. Someone had lit candles in that room, in an abandoned farmhouse that no one was supposed to enter. Someone was up here with candles. The logic move was to leave immediately. They both knew that, but the silence stopped them. The entire time they'd been inside, the building had been perfectly, completely silent, except for the sounds they made themselves. If someone was in that room, they should have heard footsteps by now. Should have heard voices. Should have heard something. Sam pressed his ear to the door. Nothing. He turned the handle and pushed. The door screamed on its hinges, a long grinding creak that filled the entire house. There were 3 men leaning on the floor in a circle, candles arranged around them, heads down, and not one of them moved. Not one of them looked up, despite the door, despite Sam and Marcus having been walking around for 5 minutes directly between them. They were motionless, completely, impossibly still. Sam stared for maybe 3 seconds before Marcus grabbed him and pulled him back. They moved fast, not quite running, but fast, back down the stairs, back towards the window. Marcus went first. Sam was halfway out when he heard it. Multiple sets of heavy footsteps erupting from that room and pounding down the stairs. He dove through the window. They ran from the tree line and didn't stop until the woods gave them cover. When they finally slowed down, they heard a single loud thud from behind them, the window they assumed slamming shut. They didn't look back to confirm. The walk back was long and silent. Neither of them could find words for what they've seen. They never really talked about it afterwards, not meaningfully, not in the way that you'd expect 2 people to process something that strange together. Sam thinks they both just wanted to bury it. Years later, after college, after life carried him elsewhere, Sam drove past the old farmhouse. The building was gone, nothing left of it. Whatever it had been, whatever those men were doing in that room, had been swallowed up without a trace. Story 3. The Sound from the Mine. This third story belongs to a seasoned backpacker travelling the west coast on a month-long trail expedition. He'd been to dozens of abandoned mining towns, the kind that littered the desert southwest, bleached and open and well documented. But a friend had told him about one that was different. This town was in the mountains, buried inside a forest, which made it extraordinarily rare. No tourist, no footpath, just century-old structures slowly becoming part of trees around them. He arrived at midday, under cloud, covered that leached the colour from everything, giving the already haunting place an even heavy atmosphere. The cabin homes were remarkable, wood so old it had merged with the vines growing through it, interior still holding of real furniture, a rocking chair, wooden shelves, evidence of lives abruptly abandoned. He explored for about half an hour with a growing unease. He kept rationalizing away. The mine entrance was at the far end of the town, a dark opening cut into the mountainside. From outside, visibly ended at 5 feet. Pure blackness beyond that. Standing at the threshold, he heard something he couldn't immediately categorize. A low, constant rumble echoing through the tunnel system, deep and steady, like something breathing far below the surface. He could feel it physically, a vibration that seemed to pass through his chest. He stepped a few feet inside. His body stopped him before his mind did. He turned around and walked quickly back through the town, checking over his shoulder at the mine entrance repeatedly. That feeling of being watched intensified with every step. Back at his campsite on the trail, he lit a fire, cooked food, tried to decompress, but the forest that night was wrong. An echo was calling out repeatedly from the same spot behind him, always the same direction, always towards the mining town. Nothing moving, just bellowing at intervals into the dark. His friend later told him that elk sometimes vocalize that way when they detect a human presence in their territory. The elk went silent, and the silence that followed felt worse. A sharp crack of a branch snapped him to his feet. His first instinct, not a logical deduction, not a reasoned conclusion, just pure gut knowledge, was that someone had followed him back from the mining town. He looked into the dark and saw nothing. He started panicking away. 5 minutes of packing, no sounds, nothing. Maybe he was wrong. He smothered the fire with dirt. The moment the flames died, footsteps came sprinting towards him from exactly where the snap had sounded. Fast, purposeful, close. His headlamp didn't reach far enough to illuminate anything. He turned and ran down the trail. The footsteps didn't follow him onto the trail. He made it back to the car by early morning. He later told his friend, who had originally mentioned the place, his friend who admitted he'd never actually approached the mine tunnel himself, said something that reframed everything. The elk had probably been tracking a person moving through the forest the whole time. Its territorial calls were a warning. A warning a narrator hadn't known how to read until it was almost too late. 3 people, 3 places they weren't supposed to be. 3 moments where instinct, ancient,